Hey class, logic lesson 49, part 3. So I didn't write logic lesson 49 part 3 up here, but that's what we're ready for. I wanted to save room for my notes. So the last thing we wrote down in part 2 was, I believe we wrote, it is wise to use universal propositions sparingly and cautiously because they can carry implications that you do not intend. All right. So I think that was the last thing we wrote down, and so you can just continue your notes under that. All right. This is the superimplication part of lesson 49, where we're studying subimplication and superimplication. So we have the square of opposition complete now. Remember the 5 different categories of propositions, right? What are they? Contradiction, contrariety, subcontrariety, subimplication, and superimplication. And once again, you have subimplication and superimplication on that side as well. So let's go through our notes on superimplication so we can understand what it is. And again, basically it's the opposite of subimplication. Subimplication is a one-way relationship between E and O statements and A and I statements. Superimplication is a one-way relationship between I and A statements, so starting at the bottom and going up, and O and E statements, starting at the bottom, going up. It's a one-way relationship. It's the relationship between particular and universal propositions. The relationship between particular and universal propositions. So again, you have your universals at the top and your particulars at the bottom. So with superimplication, we're starting with particular and going up to universal. So again, it's the opposite of subimplication. So the truth of the particular does not necessitate the truth or falsity of the universal. Let me read that again. The truth of the particular does not necessitate the truth or falsity of the universal. The falsity of the particular implies the falsity of the universal. The falsity of the particular implies the falsity of the universal. So in other words, if the particular is true, that does not tell us for sure that the universal is either true or false. Okay? So if the particular, either I or O, is true, the universal version of that may be true or it may be false. However, if the particular is false, so if an O statement is false, that means that the universal will be true. Okay? The O statement is false. Excuse me, I'm sorry. If it is false, it means that the universal will also be false. Okay? Sorry, I misspoke there. If it is false, it means that the universal will also be false. So the falsity of the particular implies the falsity of the universal. So if the O statement is false, that means the E statement is false. If the I statement is false, it means the A statement is false. So let me give you some examples. So let's start with, let's start with an I statement, okay? So I statements take the form of some S is P. All right, so let's say some dogs are mammals. Okay, that's an I statement. And it's true, right? Let's do another I statement. Some dogs are German Shepherds. Okay, so both of those are I statements. Both of them are true. However, let's change them to A statements. All dogs are mammals. Okay? Once again, also true. So that version of that statement is both true in the I statement and true in the A statement. Okay? Some dogs are mammals is true. All dogs are mammals is also true. However, the second one we said is some dogs are German Shepherds. If we say all dogs are German Shepherds, that means that your I statement is true, but your A statement is false, right? Some dogs are German Shepherds, true. All dogs are German Shepherds, false. So do you see how just because this one is true, it doesn't necessarily mean that this one will be true. Could be true, could be false. Let's try this. Some dogs are reptiles. That would be, once again, an I statement. That's not true, right? Now, since that's not true, if we change that to an A statement, we ought to know that that one also will not be true. Some dogs are reptiles. All dogs are reptiles. Both of those are untrue. And once again, if we know that this one is false, that means that this one also is going to be false. Let's try this. Let's do an O statement. So O statements take the form, some S is not P. All right? So let's say some dogs are not birds. Okay, so think through that. Some dogs are not, sorry, I read that completely wrong. Some ducks are not birds. Some ducks are not birds. Okay? Is that true? No, that's false. All right? So it's not true, it's a no statement. But if I say no ducks are birds, that's also false. Right? So if this one's false, this one's false. This one's false, this one's false. That is the relationship of superimplication. Okay, so for your homework, I want you to do page 107 in your book. I want you to do all the questions on it. So go ahead and open your book. I'm going to help you with some of them. So if you want my help, you can go ahead and keep watching, and I will help you do some of them. So let's go to page 107. Let's go to the top of the page. If you need to pause the video to find it, that's fine. I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to read the directions at the top of page 107. For each of the following pairs of propositions, determine the relationship that is illustrated by the propositions and write it in the space provided. So they're giving you two statements, two propositions, and you have to figure out what the relationship is. And this is where the square of opposition is going to help you a lot. Okay? You don't have to try to just figure this out by looking at the statements. First of all, you have to figure out what the statements are, but once you know what kind of statement it is, an A, I, E, or O statement, once you figure that out, then all you got to do is look at the square of opposition, and you can figure out the relationship. So it's not that hard. You just got to make sure you get the statements right. And then you can look here. So, number one, some primates are orangutans. Some primates are not orangutans. So, looking at the first statement, some primates are orangutans. What form is that? Some S is P, right? Some S is P, which makes it an I statement. Very good. So the first one is an I statement. Some primates are not orangutans. What form does that have? Some S is not P, which makes it an O statement. So we have an I and an O statement, right? So what's the relationship? From I to O, subcontrariety. Okay, this is a subcontrary statement. You can write subcontrariety or subcontrary. All right. So that's your first one. How about number two? All primates are orangutans. Some primates are not orangutans. Okay. All primates are orangutans. What kind of statement is that? That's an A statement. Some primates are not orangutans. What kind of statement is that? That's an O statement. So if you just write with your pencil above the, well, I guess you're not supposed to write in your books, but if you just write those two letters down, A, O, look at the square of opposition, and again, you can either draw the square of opposition on your paper so that you have it right beside you, or you can look back in the book to where it has a diagram of it somewhere. You just look at the square of opposition, and what kind of a statement do you have if you have an A and an O statement? A, O means you have a contradiction, a contradictory statement, which means that if A is true, it means that O is false. If O is true, it means that A is false. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and do numbers 3, 4, and 5. So go ahead and pause the video and finish those three. That way we don't have to get our questions all jumbled and out of order and when your homework papers show up, they're not in order. It's best if you keep them in order if at all possible, so go ahead and pause the video. And when you're done doing those 3, you can start it up again, and then I'm going to help you with a couple more on the bottom section. Okay, are we ready for the next section? I'm going to read the directions. So the first section was match. This section is called create. Create or find an example of each of the following relationships of opposition: contradiction, contrariety, subcontrariety, subimplication, and superimplication. Remember, each of your examples should include both halves of the relationship. If you are illustrating contradiction and have an A proposition, then you would need to provide the O proposition as well to fully illustrate the relationship of contradiction. For the relationships of contradiction, subimplication, and superimplication, make sure that you include examples of all of the possible relationships. Remember that contradiction exists between A and O propositions and E and I propositions. Subimplication exists between the A and I and the E and O propositions. Superimplication exists between the I and A and O and E propositions. Okay, so basically they're wanting you to give examples of each relationship that they list. So contradiction, contrariety, subcontrariety, subimplication, and superimplication, which is actually all 5 of them, right? They want you to give you examples of all 5. Now it says to give all examples of each one. So some of them have more than one, right? So contradiction, you have a relationship between A and O, and I and E. Now, if you just give one, that's enough for me, okay? If you want to give 2, or however many there is, go ahead and do it, and I can maybe give you some extra credit. But as long as you give 1, that's good enough to actually, to do what I'm asking you to do. So anyway, let's start with number 1. Number 1, they're saying, give an example of a relationship of a contradiction, right? So contradiction, number 1. So let's do an E and an I statement, okay? Now I'm going to give you an example. I don't want you to use my example, all right? Come up with your own. Come up with, and don't just change the words around a little bit. I want you to come up with an original, all right? So let's start with an I statement. What are I statements? I statements say some S is P, okay? So here's the one I'm going to use. Some beings are people with free will. Some beings are people with free will. Okay, that's our I statement. What would the E version of that be? No beings are people with free will. Okay? Some beings are people with free will. No beings are people with free will. Once again, this is a contradiction. So if one is true, the other is false. Let's go to, actually I'm going to ask you to pause the video again, and I want you to do numbers 2, 3, and 4, and then I will help you with number 5. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, number 5, superimplication. So what is the relationship of superimplication? It's the one that we learned today, right? So we start with particulars and we go to universals. So let's do an I statement and an A statement, okay? So an example of an I statement. Some centipedes are mammals. Some centipedes are mammals. The corresponding A statement is going to be all centipedes are mammals. Okay? So again, some centipedes are mammals. Is that true? No, that's false. So that means that the A statement, all centipedes are mammals, are also false. Now you don't have to write down if it's true or false or explain it or anything. All you have to do in this section is just write down those 2 propositions. An I statement and an A statement, or if you want to do an O statement and an E statement, okay? Just give me an example of superimplication. So again, come up with an original, but the one that I have is some centipedes are mammals, all centipedes are mammals. If you were writing that one, which I don't want you to write that one, but if you were, that's all you would write. Some centipedes are mammals, all centipedes are mammals. Okay? Got it? All right? Very good. That's all I got.